Cheapskate husband wants to be buried with his fortune. His widow gets her revenge. There are some people in the world who are extremely cheap. They like to call themselves thrifty, but the people who know them best know that they're cheap, even greedy. Maybe miserly would be a better word. Well, this can make relationships difficult if one person is very thrifty and the other one likes to spend. Well, that could cause some problems. Even a person who spends money wisely but likes to buy what they need and get very stressed out when they're cheap. Partner refuses to spend money on the things the family really needs. When a person is this cheap and their spouse isn't, it's going to result in something pretty bad like a divorce. There are some couples though who try to compromise so that they can make the marriage work. Here's the story of a cheapskate husband who wanted to be buried with his fortune, and his widow was smart. She got a very ingenious revenge. The man worked really hard every day of his life. Each time he cashed his paycheck, he stashed the money away. He made sure that the mortgage was paid, and he made sure that his light bill and heating bills were paid. He also made sure that there was food on the table. However, the food that he bought was cheap. He never bought his wife any steaks to prepare for dinner. It was usually food from the discount rack that was getting close to spoiling. He never took his wife out for a nice dinner or a night out on the town since their relationship began. She had not even gone to see a movie because her husband believed that going to the movies was a useless experience when they had a perfectly good television at home. The man loved money. He loved money more than anything, including his wife. Every week he just kept stashing away his money. The couple only bought clothes and shoes when they had literally worn through the ones they had already owned. The couple lived like this for decades. The man drove his wife crazy, but she still loved him, so she stuck with him the whole time. One day the man went to the doctor because he was feeling sick. When he went to see the doc, he didn't know that his illness was as serious as it was. The doctor told him he was extremely ill and he didn't have long to live. Well, this changed everything between the man and his wife, except for the fact that he was still cheap. Each time he received a pension check, he cashed it and put the money away, the same way he'd been doing for years. But one day he sat his wife down and told her that there was something very important that he wanted to talk about. His wife expected him to give her a long speech about how much he loved her. She thought that he would tell her what an amazing wife she'd been over the years. She thought he might even apologize for being cheap through their entire marriage. When he started talking, she realized that she was completely wrong about what she thought he might say. Instead, he told her that when he died he wanted to take all the money that he'd been saving for so long and put it in the casket with him. He told her that he wanted to bring all his money with him to the afterlife. The woman couldn't help but think how selfish this was. She knew that if she obeyed his wishes, she would be penniless. She would spend the rest of her life poor. She'd have no money to pay for the house, the bills, even to buy food. She loved her husband very much, regardless of the fact that he was selfish and cheap. So she promised that she would do what he asked. She told him that she would gather up all the money that he saved and she would put it in his casket. That made the man relax, and he lived out his final days, confident that he would be buried with his money. Well, it wasn't long after the couple's unfortunate conversation that the man succumbed to his illness and passed away. The woman was devastated even though her husband was the biggest cheapskate that she'd ever met. She still was very much in love with him. She mourned the loss of her husband and she couldn't stop thinking about his final request. She knew that if she obeyed his wishes that she would be poor. She knew that if she didn't obey, she would be hurting her husband after death. The woman agonized over this until the day of the funeral. The woman planned for the funeral to be held at their local church. She walked down to the front of the church and saw her husband lying in the casket. The clothing that he was wearing in the casket was tattered, but he was the man. Wishes that she didn't spend any of his money on new clothing for his funeral. He wanted to take it all with him. She was all dressed in black. She was sitting by one of their closest friends. She was happy to have a friend to support her during this trying time. At the end of the service, before the casket was closed, she asked them to wait just a moment. She took a shoebox out from under her seat. Her friend asked what was in the box, and the woman told her about her husband's last wish. The friend thought that she was crazy because the man was so cheap and he had a fortune stashed away. She told him that being a good wife and a good Christian, she had to obey his last wish. The friend mentioned how rich the man was. He asked how she fit all of that cash into a shoebox. She told him that it wouldn't fit, so she had to improvise. She put all of the money into her bank account and then she wrote him a check and put it in the casket. She was putting the money in the casket. He could have it in the afterlife if he could find a bank in heaven. Subscribe for more.